To make this air cleaner, I'm using a 20-inch box fan and 20 by 20 house filters. To make mine, I'm using two 1-inch filters. I'm making the whole thing out of 3/4 inch plywood, and most of my cuts are just done on a table saw. I'm starting with the base. The base is going to be 10 1/4 by 20 1/4 inches. I'm also going to need two sides. These are going to be 10 1/4 by 21 3/4 inches. You can screw the whole thing together if you want. This works okay, but it gets annoying because the pieces like to move around, so you do have to use a lot of clamps to get it held securely to add screws. What I like to do actually is use glue and 18 gauge brad nails and then strengthen it with screws afterwards. I'm first attaching the sides to the base, making sure the base is in between the sides to get the right measurements. Next, I have to add horizontal dividers, which are going to be 1 inch by 20 1/4 inches. I also need vertical dividers, which will be 1 inch by 18 3/4 inches, and these will sit in between the horizontal dividers. The whole idea here is there's going to be layers of the fan and the two filters, so the dividers just help keep everything in place. I'm spacing the fan compartment by 4.5 inches, just using these blocks to help me out. I also have to notch room for this wire going up, and all I'm doing there is using my jigsaw to notch out just a little gap so the wire can fit through. I'm spacing the filter compartments by 7/8 of an inch, once again using some blocks to help me out. Now we need room to change the filters, so notice how on that middle section I didn't add the top piece. That's not secured in place, because to actually swap out the filters you need room for your hand to stick in and grab one. I am still using that divider piece, but it'll be attached to a filter cover, which will be 4 1/4 by 20 1/4 inches. Now you could stop here if you want, but I want to make it a little fancier. I'm adding a fan cover. This will be 6 by 20 1/4 inches. What I have to do here is cut around the controls and then the handle on the fan, because I want to leave that stock in case I need to swap it out later on. I'm also adding some 1/4 inch plywood on both faces to cover up the side of the plywood, but also help keep the tops held in place. All I'm doing here is gluing and tacking in place, and then using a router to route out the inside portion. And the very last thing I'm doing here is adding some casters, just the easiest kind, where you drill a hole and plop them in, and that's all it really takes. This is finally ready to use.